In your opinion, for shareholders, what from here? What do you think is going to be the top trigger which unlocks further value?
Hi Prashant, good to have on this particular. I'm good to have on this particular discussion with you all. I believe that I think if you look back into the past and quickly, I think take the cue out of that for the future. Every 7 or 8 years, I think they have launched new businesses, and I think they start from the petrochemical, and thereafter, I think getting into the oil and gas exploration, even retailing business, and I think the geo business platform, refining business included. I think each of these businesses, I think they would take longer time to, I think, construct. And essentially, they are not the new businesses. They are already existing businesses, which I would think that I think this company has developed the habit of Indianize those businesses. They would probably, I think, create the larger scale, looking at the size of the country, looking at the population, and create, I think, a profitable venture out of it. If that particular thing is something called as a cue for the next round of growth that they're talking about, already something which is already launched is a renewable segment of the business, wherein we are going to see the renewable materials, we are going to see the storage business, I think, which is coming up. And that is where probably I think the company is going to unfold larger part of the story. If $75 billion investment commitment that they have already announced, I would rather like to believe that I think by the time they end up completing this particular project, the size of the investment would be far larger. And maybe I think taking care of the next round of growth that probably would be required. So in my viewpoint, I think renewable would be the first thing which will get launched probably in 2024. And subsequently followed by which I think the infrastructure and the defense play, which would be, I think, forming the larger part of the growth engine, which probably this company would launch eventually for the next round of, I think, next 10 years or so. Because India has already made an announcement, Prime Minister has already made an announcement of 110 lakh crores of investment in infrastructure. And that's where probably I think the larger amount of infrastructure related stories will get unfolded in subsequent years. And that's where I believe that the Reliance could possibly lead the direction there too, along with the defense area. So in my viewpoint, I think the future rounds will come from the renewables, storage, infrastructure, and defense, if I have to summarize in this order.
Okay. Deven, I'm giving you two questions. Normally, people give a question and multiple answers to choose. I'm going to give you two questions. Great if you can answer both. One, what do you think will be the market cap of Reliance in, say, 2030? And secondly, what percentage of your portfolio should be Reliance? Because it's not one company, you know, as we've all been saying, it's at least 6 companies.
So, Lata, great to have these questions from you. I think the second question probably I think is relatively more easier for me to answer. So I think I would go with that. Comfortable to I think keep 15% and above kind of an exposure into the portfolio from Reliance. I think largely the point is that I think if one company is talking of growing the size of the profit every 3 years or 3.5 years, then in such situation, I think it should be, I think, a meaningful exposure in your portfolio. Currently, 1,30,000 crore worth of EBITDA expected in FY23 would be somewhere around 2,75,000, 2,80,000 crores, I think 3.5, 4 years from now. So if that is so, then I think it is making sense to keep, I think, a larger part of the exposure into this particular stock, because you are basically getting the opportunity to double the size of your portfolio in next 3.5 year time. So that is an easy answer. Maybe by 2030, you might see, I think, this particular profit with similar kind of capital expansion that they've been doing in the renewables and the storage would possibly reach in the direction of around 7.5 lakh to 8 lakh crores EBITDA, I think, by 2030. So that is, again, I think, giving you an opportunity to multiply your investment as much, I think, in next 7-8 years thereafter. As far as I think the first part of the question, sorry, I forgot. I think
the overall market cap. How much can your best guess be by 2030?
Well, I think very simply put, I think every 3.5 years, 4 years, I think we'll see the doubling of the market cap from now.
Okay. I thought doubling by 2030 would be your answer. That is even more optimistic.
Deven, you said that every 6 to 7 years, we've seen Reliance come out with a new business or scale up their existing business. So in the next, say, 5 years, right, because new energy has been in the works for the last 2 years, which business do you think they could be targeting, looking to scale up, where they have a footprint right now, but not big enough? What could be the new growth area for Reliance Industries, in your opinion?
So I think, as I said, the renewable story is just unfolding. I think, like in case of Geo, when initially I think they had committed to invest about a lakh of crores of rupees, which subsequently they ended up investing somewhere around 3.5 lakh crores. I think the similar kind of thing could happen in the area of renewables and the storage. I think that probably I would not be surprised if that number goes up significantly. And renewable, according to me, at the start, I think it is this particular investment that they're talking about somewhere in 2024-25, when they would probably complete the first round of launch into the renewables area of activity. Already, I think they would have created significantly large amount of base for taking the next round of expansion. So that figure something which we'll have to wait and see how exactly it comes. But in my understanding, suppose if you are investing 6-7 lakh crores of rupees in this particular area of business, I think once the commercial production start, your payback period should be somewhere around 3 years, 3.5 years, because of the large size project. So obviously, I think if this is the kind of money that they are going to get the payback, significant amount of next round of investment can be expected. I think that would be upwards of $125 billion in subsequent period. And that area could be, I think, connected with infrastructure. That area could be connected with defense. Lot of, I think, the technology-based innovations and the disruptions are also happening in the universe. I would think that I think this is going to be the cue as far as I think the infrastructure and defense is concerned, in which probably larger sum of money would be invested, I think, with a higher amount of technology play at the back.
From an investor standpoint, Deven, what is the biggest risk you see to Reliance's growth?
So far, I think the Reliance has been extremely successful in delivering some of the larger projects, and that too in a very precise timeline. And at the, I think, at the most, I think, very competitive cost. They have been extremely successful. They've been ahead of the curve as far as their launch of the business is concerned. This could itself, I think, be a bigger challenge going forward when you scale it up, because larger the scale, larger the requirement of implementation, and at that point of time, any kind of miss on this particular subject would invite, I think, some amount of risk. That is for sure. So that is broadly generalized. However, I think as I see it in every new generation of business, I think one big underlying risk which continues is the risk of disruption. Earlier days, I think you would have about 7-8 years cycle in the business, after which I think the business would take a change and probably, I think, get into the newer mode. Today, I think that cycle time has reduced to around 3.5-4 years. And I think every 3.5-4 years, I think the businesses are required to reinvent themselves. With the kind of disruption with the technology that we are continuously seeing, I'm not surprised if I think by the time you launch your business, I think already the business model is required to be changed. And this could cause a larger risk going forward. So how smartly you execute this particular proposition, given the kind of risk that you are assuming, I think is going to be the key success going forward. And that's where I think probably successful companies like Reliance will have to lead the path and demonstrate how exactly they will beat these kind of challenges as far as I think the disruption in the business model is concerned.
All right. Well put. Thank you very much, Deven. Thank you.